Okay, I'll call to order the regular meeting for October 22nd, 2024. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our mission statement is Learning for Life. Vision statement is Southgate Community Schools, the best choice for students and parents. That I will entertain a motion on the agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support. Support by Mr. Green. Any discussion on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. First item on that agenda is a presentation of the fiscal year 24 audit. Are we working out of the book here or the handout?
I know, I'm sorry. Thanks for having me.
Good evening. As the screen is lowering, I just wanted to let you know there should be a couple of different documents on in front of you. You should have received a bound financial statement. Then we'll have the board communication letter, which is the stapled, and then you will have this presentation, which is also listed on the screen, which is what we will go through, and that includes everything that's in within those other two documents. But happy to answer anything in those as well, specifically. So with that, get my mouse to work. Okay, so my name is Daniel Clark. I am the signing principal on your engagement again this year. I think this is my third year working with the district, so a pleasure working with you all again this year. So similar to prior years, we have a very similar presentation that just goes through some required board communications. Then we talk about the financial results of the district, and then we'll just spend a brief moment on some upcoming accounting pronouncements. So with that, you can go ahead and go to slide 3. So as mentioned, I am the signing principal. We had a very consistent team. Tracy Kendall was the senior manager again this year, Shelby Bailey, the supervisor, and then we had a couple new staff as listed there on that slide. So first and foremost, obviously the district is always interested in what kind of opinion that they're going to be receiving from an audit perspective. So happy to state that the district did receive an unmodified, or what we call a clean opinion, on the June 30th, 2024 financial statements. You're also required to submit this to MDE by November 1st, and that has been completed. So you are well within both of those criteria. So again, great work from the district this year. We are also asked to communicate any new accounting pronouncements that were applicable this year. There was one new one, GASB, which stands for Government Accounting Standards Board, number 100, related to accounting changes. And this was just a very minor change, but if you look at the financials on page 20, anytime that we change a major fund based on a predetermined criteria, based on the value of certain totals in that fund, it can either become major fund or minor fund, and anytime there's a change from one year to the next, we have to list that now according to GASB 100. So there was one fund change, as I stated, if you go to page 20 of the booklet, related to your 2020 capital projects fund. Last year was considered major. Obviously, there was some significant activity still occurring. This year, because that activity all but wrapped up, that is no longer considered a major fund. It is now rolled into your non-major governmental funds as that fund wraps up for its intended purpose. So you'll see on page 20, there's that column that shows last year's beginning fund balance. It's now rolled into that non-major governmental fund column. So again, a minor tweak, but that's a new change that the Standards Board is requesting that we put in there. So number 3, we're asked to assess accounting estimates. Those things relate to like depreciation expense, allowance for accounts receivable, inputs related to your pension and OPEB. We assess those and deem those all to be reasonable. I'm also happy to state we encountered no difficulties when performing the audit. So Barb and her team Irvine, the superintendent, were very helpful, answered all the questions that we had, provided all the documentation that we needed. So we appreciate the work that the district did this year to make a smooth audit. We were also asked to communicate any accounting changes as far as accounting journal entries. There was one set of accounting adjustments that was needed this year related to capital assets. So we noted that as a material misstatement. Often, and this is not unusual for districts because districts only account for new capital additions once every year. It is sometimes, I will say it's sometimes easy to miss capital additions that get booked into expenditures. So we did have one finding related to, there were some additions that needed to be capitalized, and that is that one material misstatement there. And because it was a material audit adjustment, it's also considered a material weakness. So both number 5 and number 6 go together. And again, not unusual, but something that the district is working to make sure that they have someone trained properly on that capital asset system to make sure that they're properly capitalizing. And I will say, I know the district has gone through a lot of capital projects over the last couple of years, so I know it's been a big lift to make sure that those are being captured properly. So again, not unusual for school districts, especially during significant capital projects. Happy to state, though, that other than that, the records were clean when they were provided to us. There were no issues noted outside of that. So again, we appreciate the district and keeping clean books, and that being the only adjustment that was necessary, and that the only finding related to it, we consider this a very clean audit other than that. So, and again, no significant deficiencies noted other than that. So the district also does require a single audit. So anytime a municipality or school district receives and spends more than $750,000 in federal expenditures, they're required to have what's called a single audit related to their federal dollars. So obviously the district receives more and spends way more than that related to a lot of the MDE funding that they receive. So the district did receive $6.7 million in federal expenditures this year. We did audit the schedule of federal expenditures called the CFA, and we also are issuing an unmodified or a clean opinion on that. So again, that was good news for the district. We do issue 2 different reports over federal expenditures, one over internal controls and financial reporting, and then one over compliance. So as noted in the previous slide, the one finding noted there, again, was related to capital additions, again, not related to federal dollars, but that finding has to be listed on that report. And then number 3, the 2 programs that were selected this year for testing related to federal dollars were Child Nutrition Cluster, and that totaled about $1.77 million in expenditures for fiscal year 24. And then the Education Stabilization Fund, or your ESSER dollars, and that was about $1.76 in federal expenditures for 2024. Happy to state that there were no findings related to your federal dollars, so all the money was spent on its intended purpose, and that was a very clean audit related to the single audit. So now we will move on to your financial results. So if you're on slide 6 and following along, in the 2024 column, you had about $158 million in assets and deferred outflows. A big chunk of that is related to your cash and investments, and then obviously your net capital assets, so your buildings, your buses, your infrastructure, et cetera. Your assets changed about $3.3 million over last year, so not a significant change. 2 of the items that we noted that changed that we wanted to talk briefly about, your cash and investments did go up a little bit, about $2.8 million, so about 5% approximately, and that related to just positive results for the district as a whole. And then your capital assets, as already mentioned, went up about $5.746 million, and that related to, again, significant capital improvements that the district's been doing. You had about $10.2 million in additions, but then obviously there's depreciation expense that goes against that and disposals. and both of those combined total about $5 million. So a net increase of $5.7 million in capital additions. And then the district does have liabilities on slide 7. So the district had just over $208 million in liabilities at the end of 2024. That's a decrease over last year. You had $218 million, so almost a $10 million decrease in liabilities. A couple of the changes I did want to point out: your long-term debt. So again, that's your bonds and your lease payable and your other related debt related to compensated absences, et cetera, went down about $3.3 million. That's related to just your annual debt payments with no significant new debt during the year. So you had about $3.4 million in debt payments in 2024. And then I'll talk about your net pension liability and your net OPEB liability, which is now actually an asset. So your net pension liability went down about $11 million. So from last year, $102 million down to $91. Most of that relates to positive investment returns in 2024. So the obviously the district participates in the state pension plan, and they did see some significant investment returns this year and saw that liability drop a significant amount by about $11.3 million related to your portion of that. And then furthermore, your net OPEB liability, which stands for other post-employment benefits, so those things like health insurance for retirees, et cetera, that actually turned into an asset this year. So your plan assets exceeded the total liability, which is the first time I've seen this. I don't even know when. So districts across the state saw that net OPEB liability turn into an asset this year. So that turned into a negative $1.6 million, again, related to investment returns. And then you did have one new item this year related to a lease. The district did lease out a building to Wayne Risa this year related to one of the school buildings, and that is the lease deferred revenue that relates to the long-term contract that the district has through the end of December 2024. So now we'll move to your equity, or your net pension, as we call it. These are the 3 different buckets that the district has related to their equity. You'll see unrestricted, and then they have net investment in capital assets, and then you have your restricted dollars of about 6%, 10%, and then negative 84%, which we'll talk about on the next couple of slides. So slide 9 talks about the first 2 categories: net investment in capital assets. So that's all your capital assets less any related debt. So you'll see over the last several years, the district continues to add to the infrastructure here at the district. You're currently sitting at about a net $7.2 million in net investment in capital assets. And again, as the district both adds and improves their other buildings and infrastructure, et cetera, and then they pay down that debt, that's what is causing that number to continue to increase. And then that bottom line is related to your restricted money. You had about $4.5 million in restricted dollars. Again, what that represents is money that the district has received that they have not yet spent at the end of the current fiscal year. Most of the reason that jumped up to $4.5 million, now that you have a net OPEB asset, those assets related to that now have to be restricted, and that equated to about $1.5 million of restricted dollars. So that's, again, what mostly increased that this year to last year. Slide 10 then is that unrestricted portion. So I did mention it was a negative number, which is very similar to all districts in the state, because you do have pension and OPEB that goes against that. You'll see here the top line, if you were to take the pension and OPEB effect out, the district would actually have about a 15.9 or just about 16 million in positive net unrestricted equity. But because the impact of pension and OPEB is required, the district is at about a negative 61.8 million. So again, not atypical for districts in Michigan or even throughout the United States. But you'll see, again, both numbers continue to increase as the district has positive results year over year. Slide 11 and 12 just talk briefly about your pension and your OPEB plan. So 11 shows at the end of 2024. So if you go all the way over to the right, you were 66% funded in 2024. You had about a $91.2 million in net pension liability. And then that smaller bar across the at the bottom is the required contribution each year. You'll see that continues to increase. So this year you had about just over $11 million in required contribution to that plan. And then slide 12 is the OPEB liability, or now the asset. So again, all the way over to the right, in 2024, you're 105% funded. So again, the first time that I can remember, and that is listed on the slide. So you had a 1.6 negative liability. And the required contribution has remained relatively flat, but you'll see from last year to this year, because you did enter into that asset, a situation that your required contribution did drop a little bit to just over 2 million. Last year is about 2.2 million. So I would expect, again, because certain things are amortized over 4 and 5 and 6 years, that this required contribution, as long as the plan continues to have positive investment returns, that might actually continue to go down. So positive results for that. We will move now to your profit and loss, entity-wide or district-wide, on slide 13. The district had $77.5 million in revenue for 2024. So again, go all the way over to the right. You had related expenditures of $64.4 million, or a net change in positive net position of $13.1 million. Now, I will say most of what affects this significantly up or down is when you have significant changes, positive changes in your pension and your OPEB. Those are actually considered negative expenses. So that's why your expenses are significantly less than your revenue. It's not that the district isn't spending closer to that 77 million, but it's that anytime we see significant positive results, that goes against the expenses. And then we'll talk about fund level. So slide 14, the district does have 4 major revenue line items. That top line is your state aid, which is a significant chunk of the district's revenue. Last year you had 43.7 million in state revenue, so the per pupil. This year you saw a significant increase of about 4.5 million. So you're currently at 48.3 million in revenue. And you'll see over the last several years, back to 19, the only year that you saw a dip in per pupil revenue was in 2020, but every year since then that continues to increase. That second line, the local or the property taxes, you did go from just over 13 million last year to 17.5 million this year. So again, related to the bond. So you saw about a $4.5 million increase in property tax revenue from last year to this year. And then those bottom 2 lines, the green line is inter-district, and then that orange line is federal. Both of those stayed relatively the same year over year, but the federal money, you'll see that's progressively increased up through 2022, and then now has started to come back down as you've spent your ESSER money. And I would expect that this number is going to be more in line with what it was pre-COVID as you spend the remaining ESSER dollars. And then I just have a couple slides related to your general fund, starting on slide 15. So go all the way over to the right, 2024, the district saw 65.5 approximately million in revenues for 2024, expenditures of 57.9. So the district did add 7.5 million to fund balance this year. Each year, you'll see back to 2019, the district has added small amounts, but this year, obviously, you did add significantly to fund balance of about $7.5 million. And if you go to the next slide, slide 16, you'll see that impact on your fund balance from 2023 to 2024. You went from a $9.7 or $9.8 million fund balance all the way up to about 17 million. And then slide 17 shows that as what we call coverage ratio. So what this measures is how much in expenditures you all have in your fund balance, both in months and as a percentage. So if you go all the way to the right again, the district had about 3.5 months of expenditures and fund balance at the end of 2024, or which equates to about 30%. And again, this is a calculation related to expenditures, not revenue. So you'll see the district, all the way back in 19, was at around 7% fund balance, and they've made significant strides all the way up to this year. Now you're currently sitting at about 30%. So very healthy growth over the last 6 years as listed here. And then the last slide, we do have some upcoming accounting pronouncements over the next 2 years related to compensated absences, certain risk disclosures, and then one related to financial reporting model. The only one, or the only two that are related to next year's financial statements are related to compensated absences, which might have a small impact on the compensated absences balance that the district carries, but I would not expect a material change there. And then certain risk disclosures, certain entities will have disclosure related to concentration of revenue, et cetera. We don't expect that to have any impact on the district. And then in fiscal year 26, there are some changes to the way financial statements are required to be presented, mostly related to budget to actual schedules. Again, I would not expect that to have significant impact on how the district presents their financial statements. But all of these will work with the district as they become applicable and make sure that they're aware of what application that they need to apply. So with that, that's the end of the formal presentation, but happy to answer any questions.
Is the GASB 101 that's coming up next year, how do you see, what are they looking for? I mean,
So there's certain things
in
that,
non-technical terms, what are they looking for?
so yeah, there are certain items that they did not require to be calculated as like accrued and sick. So they're actually, the calculation is actually going to encompass a little more things that would actually apply, which previously did not. So that's why we're seeing small increases in the value. So certain things that used to not have to be calculated as accruals that technically the school might owe if somebody were to leave.
Outstanding liabilities on
Uncompensated, so,
time people have earned, but we haven't yet paid or
Correct,
kept
correct.
track of.
correct.
Amazing.
Yep.
I can't believe we're talking about that. All right. Anybody got any questions? All right. That's it. I guess you did it right there. You just did one
All right.
shot. You got it all.
I do want to say a thank you to our finance department for putting together this audit. I know it was a lot of hours, and you worked very hard. Everyone worked very hard for that, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Barb, it's been a pleasure working with you. I know that there's,
Pardon?
I said it's been a pleasure working with you. I know there's an upcoming retirement, so
I'm sure I'll talk to you.
we will miss you, so. But we look forward to working with Ms. Butler, and
You as well.
so,
Same team.
Good luck
except for
to you.
me Next year.
yeah,
So thank you, and your staff as well.
excellent.
All right. Thank you very much.
All right. You want me to shut this off then? Are we done with?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. All right, next on the agenda is citizens' comments. Any member of the public can address the board for up to 3 minutes. Fill out a form at the beginning of the meeting. If you didn't fill out a form, it's okay. Is there anybody who would like to speak tonight? All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead and close public comment. Brings us to G, the consent agenda, which consists of October 8, 2024 regular board meeting minutes and the HR update. I will entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
We have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support. Supported by Mr. Sage. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Brings us to the action portion of our agenda. It's aptly named. Number 1 is Parent Advisory Committee nomination.
Yes, I'll go ahead and ask for our special education director to come on up and talk a little bit about her recommendation and the role that the board has in this.
Good evening, everybody. So The Michigan Department of Education very much values parent input when it comes to special education students' education. So as a part of that, they require each ISD, each county, create a parent advisory committee. And it's made up of each of the local districts. So each school board gets to nominate a member for that district. Now, I first want to start by saying I want to thank Michelle Museworthy, who's been our parent advisory committee member for the last 2 terms, so almost 6 years. Her daughter has moved on to post-secondary education, so she's no longer able to represent us anymore. So we want to congratulate her. But we would like to have you nominate Tasha Miller, who has a daughter who attends Davidson Middle School. She is a strong advocate for students with challenges. And, let me tell you, I skipped this part. The important part about this is that what the parent advisory committee member would do is they would attend monthly meetings and trainings for us at the county. They would be an advocate for parents in our local district. So if anybody's struggling and they want to talk to them, they do that. And they would also give input on any rule changes or any advice on the county plan. So those are the main areas that they would do. So Ms. Miller has been a phenomenal parent in the district. She's an advocate for all students. And so we would like to highly recommend her for this position. The first step would be if you agree and you nominate her, then I would take this information to the county board, and then they would take your nomination and then do a nomination at the county board level, and then she could represent us. Any questions?
Any questions? Technical questions?
Has she been with the district throughout her child's education?
No, she's actually only been here for a few years. Her daughter, she's lived in Southgate, but she had been in a previous school district where her daughter struggled. And then she came back, and then she's been a strong advocate. She came from a center program.
Oh, okay.
And then came back. And so, but she's been fabulous since she's been here.
Thank you.
We actually can nominate 2 parents. We have one now. I have another parent who's also interested. It's a big job because you're volunteering for a lot. So we have another parent who's also considering. So I may be back to see you with a second nomination.
Nice. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Seeing none, will bring the discussion back to the table. Entertain a motion on action item number 1.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Parent Advisory Committee nomination as presented.
I have a motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support? Support. Support by Mr. Sage. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. Action item number 2 is the track and field shot put and discus renovations. Ken and Mr. Hurry on this one.
Good evening. Gary Campbell, Plant Moran Real Point, along with Jason Hardy, to present the award recommendation for the Anderson shot put and discus renovations. In this award recommendation, along with our recommendation, you'll find the bid tabulation sheet, the bid drawing showing where the layout will be, and the proposal form from the selected contractor. The purpose of these renovations are to demolish, remove, and rebuild both the existing shot put and discus areas of the athletic complex at the Anderson High School. Mutual efforts between Plant Moran Real Point, the district, and the collaborative, who is the architect for the project. The schedule for this, it's going to be in tandem with the current work that's going on at the baseball and softball fields. So as they wrap up those projects on their way out, they will construct both of these areas, and then be completely done. They'll restore the areas and move on. So on October 2nd, we issued construction documents and made them available to the contractors. On October 17th, we received sealed bid proposals from 3 contractors. We did receive a 4th contractor submitting one, but it was after the bid deadline, so we chose not to accept it. 3 bids that we did receive were all, for the most part, pretty close. One of them we had to, it was the current low bidder. And the post-bid interviews, we evaluated them and realized they were missing some scope. So in that situation, we give them an opportunity to either absorb that cost that they missed or withdraw their bid. Due to the cost difference, they decided to withdraw their bid. So with that being said, after the post-bid interviews, we are recommending S&H Trucking, who is also the contractor doing the baseball and softball work, so it'll work out very nicely since they're already out there, for services for the shot put and discus renovations at the high school. The total recommendation for this project is $80,400. This includes a contract to S&H Trucking for $67,000 and a project contingency amount of $13,000. Any unused contingency, again, would be returned to the district if needed. On the next page, you'll see the bid tabulation between the three contractors. The low bid was KAB. They withdrew their bid, but in the post-bid interviews, the cost for them to do the work was pretty comparable to S&H Trucking, so we felt comfortable with their number. Again, S&H Trucking, the base bid subtotal was $65,000. Performance bond was $2,000, bringing their total bid to $67,000 even. Following pages, you'll see the drawings and the layouts of where the shot put discs will be. It's actually going to be down the bottom right-hand corner between Allen and the baseball field over in that corner. On the final page, you'll see the proposal form from S&H Trucking outlining the breakdown of materials and cost of work. Any questions in regards to this award recommendation?
Any questions?
I have a question. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sure. Oh, go ahead, Amy.
I'm just curious, this isn't about the project, but do we have a large shot put and discus program at the high school? How many kids are involved in this? Is it competitive?
Yes, we have outstanding students who are in their last few years, and I think we're going to have another group that comes through, but they are really remarkable, and they're really looking forward to the opportunity to use some new facilities. So, very proud of them.
Well, just looking at the quotes, and I know the trucking is already here on site, so I'm sure that plays a role. But looking at like the fencing and netting, you got $20,000 versus $8,000. What is that?
Between S&H Trucking and KAB.
Yeah.
So some of the netting system that KAB spec was different from what we were requesting. That was the one delta, and the other missing piece was there was a lot of concrete work that was missing from their bid. So
On Gibraltar Construction, is the $8,000 variance there. And if you look at their bid, $139,400, we spec'd a specific type of netting, so something that we can remove the poles, put it away for the winter. It's in concrete sleeves. It's not something we want to leave up year round and then have ruined faster.
Weather.
So the $8,000 one was a more permanent solution, not a removable. We didn't even entertain Gibraltar because of the $139,400 during post-bid interviews. But
we did spell out the exact system that the district wanted and made sure that
yeah, and then S&H Trucking on the fencing and netting, they are
almost the Michigan representative for that company. So they get better
Yeah.
pricing.
so they get better pricing. KB had 27,000 in, and then for the same system, S&H had 20,000. They have a lot of this in stock. They don't need to order it. They can supply the vendor. So
Thank you.
There's a delta, but that's why.
Speaking a little bit from that world too, bidding can be a game.
Yep.
You know, they plug numbers, they get a bottom number, and then they plug numbers in and they play with numbers to get the bid and make money. And yeah, I can't speak specifically to these contractors. I can just tell you that bidding is an art and and a strategy, and there's a lot that goes into it after they come up with it. So you might see discrepancies in numbers across, but you'll see one thing up high. I mean, like if you look at the OH and P is 6,000 to 20. So, you know, or even the general conditions is 1,000 to 7. So they work numbers and then they move them around. I mean, there's no way it's all round numbers to come to any of these as you know, we know, but everybody has a round number for every single item, and that's just the game of bidding. So, sorry. Just my 2 cents.
That was not my question.
Any other questions?
I do want to add that we have both male and female throwers in about the 15 to 20 student team population. And they have really picked it up and are really excited about taking it to another level. So I could talk forever and I could even name them, but I'm not going to do that.
Did we have Titan Awards for those? Because I never heard of it either, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
It's part of the track and field.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it gets blended into the.
Oh,
They're part of,
It's not- it's
they're
not
grouped in.
specific,
It's
yeah.
not, it's not its own team, it's part of the track and field.
Right, right.
oh,
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
specific to, but
Right.
yeah, we've seen them.
okay.
They just blend in though.
Yeah,
They just look like regular kids.
thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. With that, I'll bring the discussion back to the table and entertain a motion on action item number 2.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the field shot put and discus renovations as presented.
A motion by Dr. Pomponio. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Mr. Sage. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you very much. And with that, looks like we're on the last item here.
President,
Mr. Green.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Green to adjourn the meeting. Is there support?
Support?
Supported by Dr. Pomponio. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.